their instinct. They just want to kill anything else that's in the aquarium with them. But they're beautiful fish. They get massive, so they make quite a statement. They're going to make a statement on their own because they're so mean you can't put anything else in with them. You do have to have a large tank because nobody can get up to 3 feet long. They're massive. One of the bigger cichlids, if not the biggest cichlid, I don't know, in the hobby. I think they might be the biggest. They are giants. They're Goliaths. So you're not going to put them in a 55 or a 75 or a 90. No, you need to have a big uniform. So they are a huge commitment, especially when you consider buying a 300-gallon aquarium with one fish.
Audrey Bamberger, Cadence Aquatics, and Michael Griffith all agree that betas are the meanest fish. So first off, I just want to say, how dare you? I mean, that's my favorite fish. Really? But I'm going to go ahead and add a few things to that. Betas can definitely be a very mean fish. If you put them in an environment that they can be a bully, then they can be a mean fish. But if you stick them in a tank all by themselves, preferably a 5 or 10 gallon tank, they're going to be super sweet and they're going to be happy and you're going to love your beta.
Regina Chic, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, and Kansas Aquatics both said flower horns. Yes, flower horns are another fish that you either love or hate, because you're going to look at them and say either that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, or you look at them and say, huh? But either way, no matter how you think they look, they are definitely mean fish, and they're another one, just like others that we talked about on this list, that you're really going to have to dedicate an entire aquarium for this one individual fish. Now, we talked about dovi earlier, where they need a massive tank. Flower horns don't need as big a tank, but they still need to be in a pretty big tank, and they need to be in that tank by themselves because they will kill whatever else is in the aquarium with them. And flower horn lovers would tell you, hey, it's not just that. It's if you put other fish in there with them, they could damage the globe that they have on their head. It just looks like something from outer space. Anyway, I'm not a flower horn hater, but I'm also not a flower horn lover. I'm just kind of like, whatever. I mean, they're neat. I'm not enamored by them like so many people are, but they're cool. They're neat. But I wouldn't go to an event that is specifically a flower horn event. But I understand that we all have different tastes. Some people absolutely love them because of their uniqueness. That's all fine. But this video is about fish that are mean. Flower horns, definitely mean. You definitely have to keep them in an aquarium by themselves. But if you're somebody that loves that big globe on their head, then you might be okay with that.
Amy Nicholson says, angel. I had one that would pull the other tank mates to death, especially large mystery snails. My current angelfish likes to splash me when I open the lid. And Rocco in Texas follows up saying he agrees that angelfish are the meanest fish. Well, in my experience, I have found that angelfish can be complete jerks if they're in a tank with other fish and they're breeding. You don't want to mess with an angelfish if they're breeding. Another thing I have found that is absolutely wrong to do when you have angelfish is have a tank with angelfish already in it, already established, and then drop a couple extra ones in there because you want different kinds, you're asking for trouble. Because those new angelfish are going to get bullied to death. Yes, angelfish can be complete jerks, but if you keep your tank set up correctly, they could be the focal point in your tank and the most beautiful fish you have ever owned.
The chili order is on the way for Radar, who hears everything. And that...
Sandy Remiker, Peppa Aquatics, and Fish Room Fever. Fish Room Fever says, honest for me, the only fish fish I've lost flesh to. Yeah, you got some TikTok fame from that, didn't you? Listen, piranhas are one of those fish that I have said in videos before, they just simply shouldn't be in the aquarium hobby. They're not a very attractive fish. They're not the most exciting fish to watch, but people love them. Why do people love them? They love them because they're mean. And because they have this reputation of being mean. I have kept them in the past because I was young. Before I had my first beer, I thought they were cool. And they turned out to be one of the most boring fish that I've ever had in my life. And I sold them to somebody else because they just sat there and they didn't do anything. Yeah, they have full teeth. That's a fish that's in the thumbnail, by the way. They have vampire-looking teeth and they look menacing and they look horrible. And if you put them in a school, they will be menacing and horrible. Or if you put your hand in the tank like fish from Finger did. But I don't know. This is just one of those fish that I'm torn on because I don't find them to be all that attractive. They don't look like an ornamental fish. They just look like a fish. They're really mean, and I don't know. They've made movies about them. They haven't made movies about Novi or Red Devils, but they've made videos about piranhas. I think 4 or 5 of them by now. Piranha even chased Richard Pryor out of the lake. Yeah, piranhas, everybody knows that they're mean. They're also ugly, so they could go on the list of ugliest fish. But anyway, yeah, piranhas, I don't know. If you want to get piranhas, ask yourself why. Why do you want that fish? And if your answer is because people come over and think it's cool, don't get them. Because they're not cool, they're boring, not all that attractive. You gotta get sick of them.
So Luna seem to be on the list as well. Jan Bennett, Candy Overhaul, Jason C., and Lefty 1245 all think that Imbunas are mean. Being someone that just absolutely loves Imbunas, and I've had several tanks that I've been completely successful with, I have to say, there are a few that are jerks, no doubt. I would say that the Erratus and the Bumblebee are probably the ones that I found the most trouble with, and I tried to just keep them out of my tank. I went along more with your yellow labs, your snow whites, your red black zebras, your polets. I could go on and on because there are so many beautiful Imbunas out there, and you can keep a successful tank if you do it the right way. We have a lot of videos about it. You should go check them out.
Jason C. says, albino red-duck zebras, this was already talked about in bonus, and red devils are the most aggressive fish I've seen to date. Most of the pink or red cichlids are very aggressive. So I want to tell you a personal story about a pair of red devils that I own that gave Jason C. every reason in the world to believe that these fish are definitely living up to their name as being devils. These two red devils were absolutely stunning fish. I have videos of them on our channel. You got to go all the way back to like one of the first probably 20 videos that I did on this channel. These fish were spectacular. They were spectacular. They were gorgeous. They left some fish alone while others did not do so well. It all started with an Oscar. Lisa has talked about this in other videos, maybe even this one, I don't remember, but they thrashed our Oscar to near death. The side of that fish looked like it was filleted. It was horrifying. Lisa was able to save that fish. He lived another 5 or 6 years after that. So it was wonderful. But they annihilated that fish. Not that close to death. And Lisa hadn't found them and stop it. But then a guy comes into the shop, a friend of the shop, and he says, hey, I got this pocket, and I don't know what to do with it. He was in a 5-gallon bucket, and the fish, I can't even explain, the fish could barely use a 5-gallon bucket. We're talking about a huge pocket. This thing is giant. And I'm like, well, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? I can't put them in our little 20-gallon tanks and sell them to somebody. Nobody's going to want to buy a fish like that. So I said, oh, I feel bad. I'll stick them into 150. Plenty big enough for a fish that size. And he's so big, the red devils, they wouldn't do it. Look, no way, he's twice their size, 3 times their size. Put him in there. We went home for the day, came back, That fish was no longer 2 times the size of the red devils. They had completely obliterated this pacu. And I'm not kidding you, this pacu was every bit of 18 to 20 inches round. I felt so bad. I just couldn't imagine that 2 fish that were a third of the size of that pacu would have done. They did it. I learned my lesson. And I sold those fish like 2 months later to somebody, and they put them in a tank, just the 2 of them. They didn't care about ever having any tank mates with them. And perfectly fine. Beautiful fish, and there's a reason why they're called devils.
JDR Aquatics, Sean Damon, Kimberly Bryant, and Rocco in Texas all say that they think the meanest fish is an Oscar. Well, let me give you my opinion on Oscars. I've had an Oscar that was the victim of bullying from another fish. He was traumatized, he was picked on, poor thing, it took him months to get better, but he was able to recover. Sweetest Oscar I ever knew. But let me tell you another story. John has 2 Oscars, and I think they're complete I can't stand those fish. They have picked on the arowanas. They're jerks. And I guess, in John's opinion, what he would tell me to do is to just go myself.
So the
Most of these fish have forced shipping. Number 7 is Oscars.
When I started drinking warm water to help with my memory, my friends laughed at me. But when they saw how much I'd improved, they struck me.
Hey there, today we're going to talk about fish species I will never keep. Now I know this might sound like a personal preference, and if you're an experienced aquarist, you'll believe that the aquarium world is your oyster. But after this video, you might want to rethink about keeping these fish. Let's dive in, starting out with the gulper catfish. This behemoth can reach up to 12 to 14 inches in size, and from that alone, you better believe you're going to need a large aquarium. And it's not even their size that's the problem. There are plenty of fish that grow to this size that do plenty fine in a 4-foot-long tank, and technically the gulper will do fine in that size tank. But the problem is that their mouth and their appetite are insane. This fish is called a gulper fish for a reason. I've seen them eat fish twice their size. The craziest animal I've seen them gulp down was a full-grown fish. Because of their ability to eat anything, even fish bigger than them, they are best kept alone or with fish way bigger than them, to which you have to worry about them getting eaten or bullied themselves. It's also difficult to set up a tank since they're scaleless and they're susceptible to injury if you have anything edged or sharp to cord. If they get sick, you gotta be cautious on what medication you use so you don't poison your catfish. Advanced hair eats practically anything and large. Seems like a cool idea to watch it devour a fish larger than it, but not worth the hassle. Hard pass. Oh, mollies. While they have a striking color varieties, this is a species I would not recommend. They can be eye-catching with their sleek, black, and vibrant orange color varieties, but they can be super temperamental, requiring fry first spawning. And if the fry aren't eaten by their parents, they will quickly overpopulate a tank. My advice with either, if you want to keep them, is have a large tank or consider smaller live bears like guppies or endlers, where you might be able to actually handle the population explosion. Let's talk about the infamous piranha. Okay. Sure, they've got a whole terrifying reputation with their sharp teeth and ability to turn a peaceful lake into a feeding frenzy. I mean, that just makes for some super intense press and horror movie plot, right? Right? I think that alone is enough of a red flag for you. If you're edgy and thinking about keeping a school of these little guys at home, you better have a seriously large tank, because they need their space to swim or lurk beneath the surface. Now, a lot of fish keepers are drawn to the idea of owning them because, let's face it, having a school of piranhas sounds pretty cool in theory, like a Bond villain. However, the reality is often a bit of a letdown since these fish aren't exactly the life of the party. They're actually pretty bland and have a lackluster personality. And they're surprisingly sedentary in nature, just kind of floating around their tank rather than putting on a show. Oh, and let's not forget their predatory nature, because they definitely have a knack for eating smaller fish. The media and movies give them this horror film-inducing vibe, but in reality, they're just boring and they get large. If you like a similar fish that's close to the piranha, then try out this silver dollar fish instead. They've got a nice shape, look like them, and they have a peaceful demeanor. Plus, it won't leave you with that constant nagging worry about what's for dinner in your tank. Unless it's plants, then yeah, they're gonna annihilate your plants. Don't let the name fool you. The Chinese algae eater is a complete fraud, nothing but a phony. They don't really eat algae, and this false impression is due to their sucker mouth, which actually functions as an anchor to surfaces in order to avoid getting carried away by strong water currents. Yeah, it just kind of helps them remain stationary in flooded rivers and fast-moving waters. They're semi-aggressive and usually aggressive towards their own kind, and when they're not fed well. They're also competitive and territorial, so if you don't want the drama, ditch the Chinese algae eater. If you actually want an algae eater, pick one from the top of my tier list in the card above. It's one of my most popular videos. Alright, not to discriminate or anything, but the flower horn is not something appealing to my eyeballs. It kind of looks like you bonked their head against the Hulk's fist. What's more is that they need a 75-gallon tank, and well, that's just for one fish. Although some would have a preference for this fish, I'm not too keen on its appearance. The fish can take up a lot of space for just one flower horn. Imagine one single fish in a very open tank. Because guess what? They are very aggressive, so this is the reason why they're kept alone. The best you can do is keep them in a pair. And if you try a mated pair, make sure you got plenty of hiding spaces for the female. Next up is the convict cichlid, and living up to its name, this fish is known to be a highly aggressive species. Though they only span about 4 inches, but man, they are small and terrible. While many cichlids are territorial and do just fine, you can tolerate their existence, you know? But the convict stands out because they've got the ability to reproduce as much as life bearers. Seriously, if you've got a pair, not only will they harass everyone or murder all your fish while breeding, they're going to fill up the tank with a ton of babies. So many that you'll be wanting to run them down to the fish store to try to give them a good home. However, you will probably happen to be one of many hobbyists trying to do the same thing. They're way too fertile for me, and I just prefer to have other cichlids. Or I'll just stick to an African cichlid tank, which have way more colorful fish. Arowanas are literally space tankers. Even the smaller ones span a few feet long, and with that, of course, is the need for a bigger tank, like literally big enough to fit a full-size one. Apart from that, it's quite difficult to find a tank mate for these fish, as anything smaller than them or anything that fits in their mouth is essentially just food. Finding a good tank mate for this fish just seems impossible, except for stingrays. They actually work great together, but you're going to need a huge tank. In fact, if you want other fish with them, we're talking a monster-sized tank. Time to give up that guest bedroom. Arowanas are known for their jumpy personality. Like, literally, they jump out of the tank. So if you're not locked in 24/7 and you don't have a tight-fitting lid on your tank, you best believe they're going to take any opportunity to jump out of that tank. So make sure you've got a tight lid that's weighed down completely to prevent them from escaping. Honestly, I'd love to keep this fish. Why is it on this list, though? Because the ones I want, you can't get in the U.S. Those are Asian arowana. We're talking, these are a dream fish to me, but you can't get them here, and they're super expensive. Goldfish are the stereotypical species to keep in a tank, but getting the fancy ones like the oranda, lionhead, ranchu, or fantail, and you've got to be on the lookout for absolute cleanliness. Sure, they might be very good looking in the tank, I get it, with flowy draping fins and their unique body appearance and features, but they're quite messy in terms of their feces. Other goldfish way overbreed, or they've got features that barely allow allow them to swim or give them delicate parts like bubble-eyed goldfish. If I'm going to buy one, I'm going with a slim body variety. Those fish are best in ponds. And if I'm going to go for a pond fish, I'm just going to lean towards koi and going all out. Yeah, you can totally mix them together, but in an aquarium, I'm just not considering goldfish. Another candidate on this list is large plecos. Again, having a large fish will require a larger tank and big time care. You'll need to start off with a 75-gallon tank, and once they grow to adulthood, you're going to need to transfer them to an even larger tank with a water capacity of 180 gallons and up. I actually used to take care of one when I worked at a fish store that was kept in an indoor pond. With fish this large comes the need for better equipment like a very powerful filter and regularly changing the tank water to maintain the desired parameters of the pleco. They prefer water similar to tropical habitats, so it's essential to have a water heater. They're often known as janitor fish to some aquarists, although their sucker mouth is not as effective in cleaning algae in your tank, as they're mainly just used to latch themselves into the substrate to prevent them from getting dragged by strong currents. While they are low maintenance, I think there are better fish to care for. Plecos are for more experienced fish keepers. If you want a pleco, go with a bristlenose. The hatchet fish is known for their unique light-producing organs. These are mainly to avoid predators in the vicinity, and now that might sound awesome, but I'd rather not keep this fish. The reason is they can't always be schooled with their own kind. They like to bicker with other hatchet fish species, although they do okay with others. What's more is that these fish like to jump out of your tank. You're going to need a tight lid for this species. They're surface dwellers, so you're going to need to be vigilant of how they move around, and they are escape artists through and through. They are small, narrow fish, and the tiniest opening is a means of escape for them. Don't be surprised if these fish unalive themselves on your floor if your tank isn't completely covered. Since they're surface dwellers, they can be underfed once they grow older, as they'd rather eat from the surface of the tank and really don't like to swim down to catch sinking foods. It's really challenging to keep this fish alive. They're way too much of a hassle for me. If I want a cool surface fish, I'm going to go for gourami, paradise fish, pencilfish, or Venice. Oh man, that's a good list for you. Maybe that's the video I should do. Think I should? Leave a comment at the bottom of this video and let me know. If I get enough requests, I'll get a video done. Or, you know, there might already be one in the card above if I already made it. Alright, so this is my personal list, but what are things you should look out for if you see a fish that strikes your fancy at the fish store? Let me give you a quick checklist to keep you from disaster. Large fish, anything larger than 5 inches, is gonna need a bigger tank and more. You know, on this channel we talk a lot about great community fish, but I haven't done a worst of video. Today we're going through the posers. The ones that your local fish store will display as community fish, or Reddit will straight up tell you that they are fine. But we're going to dive into where our tank becomes the fin-nipping, territory-claiming, stress-filled mess. First on this list are tiger barbs. These little guys are the classic case of looks can be deceiving. With their striking orange bodies and bold black stripes, they seem like the perfect addition to the vibrant community tank. But just like the schoolyard bully who gets into everyone's business, these little fish have a serious attitude problem. They're notorious fin nippers, meaning that any fish with long flowing fins, betta, angelfish, guppies, are prime targets for their bad behavior. Oh, but their aggression isn't limited to other species. Tiger barbs will also go after their own kind, especially if they're kept in small numbers. If you toss just a couple into a tank, you might find them constantly bickering and bullying each other, creating a toxic tank environment. It's as if they thrive on drama, and the more fish they can take on, the better. Fish-keeping forums are full of tales of stressed-out aquarists who tried to integrate tiger barbs into a peaceful tank, only to watch them wreak havoc. While a larger school of tiger barbs, around 12 or more, might reduce some of their aggression by allowing them to direct inward, don't expect miracles. Even then, they're still the hyperactive, easily bored species that love to chase and nip at anything that moves slower than they do or has really long fins. If you really must have them, the best advice is to give them a tank of their own or place them with very specific fish like rainbow sharks. That way they can duke it out amongst themselves or compete with fish that they don't care for. Angelfish are the aquatic equivalent of celebrities. Beautiful, elegant, and always commanding attention. Their graceful long fins and majestic swimming style make them a popular choice for aquarium owners. But behind that heavenly appearance lies a surprisingly aggressive streak. Especially when these cichlids start breeding. Because when angelfish pair up, they claim territory like a couple claiming all the blankets in bed. They become fiercely protective, often chasing away or outright attacking any fish that dares to venture too close to their chosen space. Beyond tetras? Yeah, they're just a quick snack. Guppies? Consider them out of luck. Angelfish are known to go from graceful to downright savage, and all in a matter of seconds, turning small community fish into potential meals while they're in the mood for it. Their territorial tendencies also extend to other angelfish, especially in smaller tanks. You'll often see angelfish chasing each other or picking on weaker members of their own species, adding an extra layer of stress to the tank dynamics. This behavior ramps up during breeding, when the aggression levels soar to new heights. In smaller, poorly arranged tanks, they can make life miserable for their tank mates. For those hoping to enjoy the beauty of angelfish without the aggression, consider giving them a large, well-planted tank where they can establish territories. I'm talking about at least a 4-foot tank. You want an example of this? Check out this incredible planted tank on Green Aqua's YouTube channel. I'm going to leave a card at the top so you can check out the full video. Another good option is keeping them in a species-only tank where they don't have to share their personal space with other fish. It's a bit of a diva move, but hey, they're angelfish. What did you expect? Dwarf gourami are the aquatic equivalent of that friend who's a blast to hang out with, until they're not. At first glance, they seem like the perfect community fish. Small, colorful, and generally peaceful looking. But dwarf gourami come with their own set of problems that can turn your tank into a dramatic soap opera. For starters, dwarf gourami can be unexpectedly aggressive, especially in smaller tanks where they feel like their space is being invaded. They're known to bully other fish, particularly those that are smaller or weaker, which can stress out your entire tank. It's like that friend who suddenly snaps because someone took the last slice of pizza. Unexpected, but the fallout is real. And honestly, I know. You might think their size would make them less of a threat, but don't be fooled. In the right or wrong conditions, dwarf gourami can become territorial and overbearing. Then there's the issue of dwarf gourami disease, a viral infection that these fish are very prone to. The frustrating part is that this disease often causes sudden, unexplained deaths, which can be devastating for fish keepers. Imagine doing everything right, maintaining perfect water quality, feeding a balanced diet, only for your dwarf gourami to just die out of the blue. There's no known cure, and once your fish has it, there's little you can do besides watch it fade away. It's no wonder many aquarists prefer to avoid dwarf gourami entirely. If you're set on adding a gourami to your tank, there are some better options. Honey gourami and pearl gourami are much more peaceful and less prone to disease. They won't bring the same drama to your tank, and they're far less likely to pick fights with their neighbors. Bala sharks are the quintessential example of why you should never judge a fish by the size and the pencil. When they're small, they seem like the ideal community fish. Sleek, peaceful, fun to watch, but don't be fooled by their juvenile size. Bala sharks grow fast, and they grow big. In just a couple of years, they can easily reach 12 inches in length.
New Dawn Power Sense traps, locks, and removes 99% of grease.
It's the better grease getter. I got this wow skin from Olay Body Wash. Its new super serum sinks into my skin with 5.
Alright, let me guess. You've stumbled upon this video because you just started an aquarium and you're struggling to keep your fish alive. You think you're doing everything right and can't understand why your water's always cloudy and your fish keep dying. Well, relax. I promise it's going to be okay. I'm going to help you get through it in this video. This is one of the most common things that new fish keepers experience, and I don't care what you've seen online, everyone that's ever had an aquarium has gone through this. The reason this is happening is because of what's called the nitrogen cycle. And this can be pretty confusing, but don't worry, I've got you covered. This is a dummy's guide to the nitrogen cycle. And what you can expect out of this series, there's tons of YouTubers out there creating great content about fish keeping, but what's difficult to find are videos that are about the bare bone basics in this hobby. This series is going to break down common issues with aquariums and fish keeping and do it in the simplest way possible. Dare I say, dummy it down a bit. In the next several weeks, you can expect videos similar to this on keeping your aquarium water clear, keeping a healthy aquarium, and one that's as simple as a dummy's guide to aquariums. Lisa and I are really hoping this series catches on like some of the other series we've done, because since 2011, it's been our mission to help new fish keepers stay in this hobby versus failing out of frustration. So if this sounds good to you, there's never been a better time to subscribe to this channel, and also let us know down in the comment section what you think of this concept of doing a dummy's guide to different aspects of this hobby. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But you know what? Enough rambling. Let's get into this. So what is the nitrogen cycle? Well, in its simplest form, this is a natural process in your aquarium that converts toxic substances like ammonia and nitrite into nitrate, which is much less harmful for your fish. So it's like a natural filter in your aquarium. It takes harmful, toxic water and makes it safer for the fish. But how and why? Well, to understand this, we first got to talk about what happens naturally in your aquarium that makes all of this necessary to begin with. When you introduce fish into a brand new aquarium that's full of clean water, the fish are thrilled. It's like you're walking outside on a brisk spring day and smell the flowers. Life couldn't be better. But it doesn't stay that way for long. See, when you're outside smelling the flowers, whether you know it or not, you're constantly producing waste. You're inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide, or CO2. This isn't a problem because when you exhale that CO2, it's carried away by the wind and sent throughout the Earth's atmosphere. And it's not just that. When you're standing outside smelling the flowers and realize last night's burritos are ready to make an appearance again, what do? Well, unless you're a savage, you go to the bathroom. You do your thing, flush the toilet, which swishes last night's burritos away, never have to see it again. But fish are trapped in a box. So when they have to get rid of last night's dinner, they just let it go. They are literally swimming around in their own toilet. If you think about it, it's kind of sad. And that's still not all. There's also food in the tank that the fish missed when you fed them. The food gets swept away in the current and stuck behind a rock somewhere, and it just sits there and rots. So we've got fish constantly producing waste and food rotting over there in the corner, and all of this is happening inside of a sealed up glass box in a fish toilet that hasn't been flushed. When you think about it, you've got to be asking yourself, how do the fish even survive? Well, it's nature that keeps them alive. So here's what happens. When all of that uneaten food and fish waste accumulates in your aquarium, it creates ammonia. Ammonia is lethal for your fish. Think of ammonia like smoke building up in a small room that you're trapped in. It's not going to kill you right away, but it won't take very long. You're going to be in that room finding it difficult to breathe. You're going to start coughing a little. Your throat is going to start burning. And eventually, you're going to start to really get desperate, and you're going to go anywhere you can to try to get some air. But if you're in a room that's sealed off, you're not going to find